Hey, this is Leif Ganford. I played the cash register thief in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. You're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
I am the last man standing, survivor. I am the last man home.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek Podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Ruari, and joining me are co-hosts Graham.
Hello.
Maureen.
Hello.
And Lawron.
Hello there.
And also joining us today is a very special guest. We have actor Matt Lanter, who is best known for the voice of Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars The Clone Wars, Harry Osborn, Flash Thompson and Venom, and Ultimate Spider-Man, and soon Aquaman in Justice League Throne of Atlantis. So how are you today, Matt?
I'm doing really good. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us on the podcast. We've all been huge fans of yours for a long time. It's great to have you join us. Yeah. So getting right into the questions, Matt, my first question for you is, how did you decide you wanted to become an actor?
Oh gosh, well, I was doing some extra work in Atlanta, Georgia, where I was living on it was actually a golf film, and I guess once I saw the lights and the cameras and everything going, I just kind of fell in love with it, or I guess bit by the bug, as they say. I don't know, I just thought it was so cool. I've always loved movies and TV growing up. I always thought it was so magical, and I guess to see it, being created right in front of my eyes, there was a factor of it being possibly attainable to me at that time. So I think that's when I really kind of saw myself as saying, hey, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could be a part of that.
That's great, definitely. So my next question is, which type of acting do you prefer, on camera or voice acting?
That's a good question. They're very, very different, but also similar in a lot of ways. I love both for different reasons. I mean, on camera, you are surrounded in an environment that is there and it's tangible, and you have other actors to act off of. You have the physicalities of the scene. You have props to work with, but there's drawbacks to that as well. You're also confined in a way to the lights and the cameras and positions and marks and overlapping as far as sound and just all kinds of stuff. So I think there's give and take on both. I certainly love voice acting a lot because it's a world that I can kind of just play in. You don't have to worry so much about those sort of tangible things. You just lose yourself in your imagination and wherever you are, your character, I should say, is in that environment. And that's why Star Wars, things like that are so fun to play in, because they're so creative and imaginative, and the world that George Lucas created is just so incredibly fun. So to kind of get to play in that and to kind of put yourself in that position is a blast. So I don't know. To answer your question, whether I like on-camera voice acting better, I can't really say I prefer one or the other. I love them both for different reasons.
That's great, definitely. So my next question, how did you first get involved with Star Wars The Clone Wars, and what were some of your favorite memories from working on the show?
Oh, well, I first got involved. It was actually just a standard audition for me through my voice agency, my voiceover agency, and they sent the audition. They said it was a Star Wars project. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything about it. They wouldn't release anything about it. I'm sure, as you guys know, Star Wars, anything is very, very secretive, so especially when they're doing a new project. So I knew it was an animation. I knew it was Star Wars, and that's literally all I knew when I went in for the audition. Dave Filoni was there, and he told me to do my best impression of, I believe he said mix Luke Skywalker with Han Solo, and just what does that sound like to you? And so I read it, and I guess they got the okay from George. They sent the audio up to him, and then, I don't know, a couple days later I got the call that I got the job, and it was Anakin Skywalker, and he's one of the leads of the new series, and 7-8 years later of working on the thing, we have into 6 seasons of awesome show.
So Matt, my final question, do you have any upcoming acting roles or other projects you'd like to talk about? I mean, I noticed you'll be voicing Aquaman in an upcoming DC animation, so that's pretty cool, another geek voice. So, I mean, can you tell us anything about any upcoming projects?
Yeah, I do have Aquaman coming up. I'm not trying to be coy, but I just don't think I'm allowed to talk about any of that yet. I don't even know what's officially been released. I do know they released that of course, I am voicing Aquaman, and I don't know. This is just me speculating, but hopefully I'll be a part of any subsequent Justice League movies as Aquaman. I would hope. So I don't know. I'm really excited to dive into the DC world. I haven't really been too familiar. Of course, just as a fan, I love seeing the DC superheroes, as much as Marvel or anyone else. But I'm very much looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing how fans react to Aquaman. I know, traditionally in the last, couple of decades or so, Aquaman has been a superhero that has not been perceived as, quote, as cool as the next one. But hopefully we can change that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, well, getting you to voice him is a good start.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and hopefully everyone else feels the same.
Definitely. So, thank you, Matt, for answering all of my questions. I'll let my co-host Graham ask his.
Okay, absolutely.
Hello. First of all, I did not know you were going to be voicing Aquaman. Awesome. Sorry,
Yeah.
big fan of Aquaman. Also, my first question, as what would be considered as a primarily live action actor, how did you adapt to voiceover work at first? Was it a difficult change? Like, how did the two jobs sort of contrast each other?
That's a good question. It is very different. You're kind of like I a little bit mentioned earlier. When you're on camera, you do have to look out for certain things as far as hitting your mark and the volume and not overlapping lines and just things like that with other actors. So in that way, it's a little bit easier. There's a little bit less things to have to worry about. It's more just about being creative and losing yourself. However, you do have to really focus on how your voice is coming out and how the inflections in your voice can mean different things emotionally for the character. So I guess it's something that, when you're on screen, you have facial expressions, you have physicality of your body to move, to help express and emote what that character is feeling or going through at that point. But when you're doing voiceover, you don't have that. So you really have to focus on how does it sound? Do I sound sad, or do I sound mad, or do I sound in control, things like that. So I guess it was difficult on that level to adjust, but, working on Star Wars The Clone Wars, I worked with perhaps the best team of actors and producers, and of course Dave Filoni as our supervising director and some of the writers. I really got to learn off of some of these seasoned voice acting veterans, James Arnold Taylor and D. Bradley Baker and Corey Burton and Tom Kane and guys like this that are so uber talented. And I would just sit there and watch them and just try to learn, just try to soak up anything I could from them like a sponge, because they certainly know what they're doing and they are some of the best. So it was constantly a learning thing for me working with those guys. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I really learned a lot from working with that whole team over the years.
As you were saying there about the whole intricacies of actually adapting your voice in general, are there any particular methods in acting or voice acting that you use to get into character? Would you mind sharing a few if you do have any?
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that has a set standard method to my madness every single time. For me, it's just about being extremely familiar with the written dialogue. And I guess what I mean by that is understanding why that character is saying that at that moment in time. And why does he choose those specific words to say? And I think it's really just about understanding what's written, understanding the dialogue, and breaking down the character. I guess that's kind of one and the same. And then just really, I guess, trying to see it as this is not a script, this is not words on a page, this is real life, this is a breathing human person. And I guess you try to lose yourself in those human emotions, and that's kind of what really helps you break down a character, is when you can kind of start to see it as real. But as far as like tips or tricks or going through I don't know, a lot of people do the tongue twister stuff like that, and I might blow out the lips or something to kind of try to loosen up my face. But I mean, other than that, I don't have any of those funny, quirky, actory things that I do. I just kind of get into the character and get into the dialogue. Yeah. Okay,
cool. That's that's really, really interesting, because most actors nowadays kind of like do the whole method thing, like full on. But like, do you have any particular performances that you're like particularly proud of? I mean, which role out of your entire career stands out to you that you felt yourself that you were most immersed in?
Yeah. Well, I am one of those people, which I think a lot of people are, that I always, if I watch my stuff back, I always find my flaws, and I always get frustrated with myself watching back. And it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter if it's voiceover, it doesn't matter if it's Star-Crossed or 90210, or if it's one of my films, or I look at them and I cringe at myself. I don't know, I suppose it's a good thing. I guess it means that I want to learn from myself and the mistakes that I feel like I've made. But I don't know. So it's hard for me to say like, oh yes, I was fantastic in this. But I guess the on-camera stuff, I don't know. I did a pilot that was actually never aired. It was called The Oaks, and it was a Fox pilot that happened right at the time that the writer's strike happened. I don't remember. It was about 6 or 7 years ago, and never got seen. But I really loved that character, and that character that I played in that pilot had a real emotional side to him that I really enjoyed. I got a movie that's hopefully coming out down the road. I don't know. It's in post-production. It's called A Chance of Rain, and that was a very, very complex character that I played, and I felt good about the stuff that I did there. I was very immersed in that world doing it. On the voice acting side, I gotta say Clone Wars, because it's such a special role to me, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime. Star Wars is so special to me, and I mean that character is so complex, and overall I feel like fans really enjoyed my performance in the series, and I could not be more grateful for that, and I really enjoyed it. So I guess I could say Clone Wars. I'm just very proud of the show as a whole, not just saying I'm proud of my performance. I'm just proud to be a part of that show, period. It's just so fantastic.
Okay, awesome. That's pretty much all my questions. So I'm going to pass you on to Maury now, who has a couple more for you.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Hello.
Hey
So jumping straight into it, my first question is, okay, on a set, it's not always serious. We have to get the work done. We have to get the work done. So, what has been your funniest memory from a production?
Oh, my funniest memory from production. That's a really tough question, actually. I feel like there's things that happen all the time, just every day. Some that I don't even remember because when you're working on set, for something like Starcrossed, which I was just doing this past season, I was on set every day for 12 to 14 hours. And there's always just little funny things that happen all the time. But I guess certain stories that I can take away, I don't know, just really hanging out with castmates and. I did 90210 for I think 5 seasons it was, and me and my buddy Michael Steger on the show, we love playing tricks on some of our other casts. There was a couple times where we TP'd the inside of Jessica Straup's trailer. I mean, there was toilet paper all over the place. We spelled out words like in wet, soggy toilet paper on her mirror. There's another time we took like every traffic cone that we could find on the studio lot and we put it in her trailer. So there's literally no walking room. It was just nothing but dirty traffic cones all throughout her trailer. So we were pretty pleased with ourselves. But stuff like that happens all the time. I mean, those are just a couple of instances off the top of my head that I can think of. So
I bet you were really popular with her.
yeah, you know what? The teepee one where we put the toilet paper in, we kept that going for a long time. She had no idea who did it for a long time. So, yeah, it was me and Michael, and Tristan Wilds was part of it as well. And we kept it going. Like, she couldn't figure it out. But, there's only so many people that you can blame. And it was most likely going to be us because we are immature and, like to have fun.
It sounds like, because you don't hear kind of that side of, like, production that much. You hear it every so often, and then just the fact that it happens quite often is quite, I don't know, more reassuring than anything, because it can be terrifying being new to that career. And then, so having said that, what is your biggest piece of advice to anyone who wants to be an actor?
Oh, my biggest piece of advice to anyone who wants to be an actor. I guess it's a tough question because there's so many pieces of advice that I would like to give, but I mean, really, if I had one biggest piece, it's just that you have to really, really want it because it is really tough. I have had such a success story, and I feel so just lucky and blessed to have the opportunities that I've gotten because it doesn't happen like that for most people. A lot of people really, really struggle for a long time, and they're very talented people. I gotta say, there are probably more talented people in this town that trying to be actors that never even get the opportunity to be seen than there are actors that we know of. So you gotta really, really want it. You're gonna face a lot of rejection. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of auditions that I've been on, and I feel like I've worked a lot, but I've been on 10 times as many auditions that I did not get. So you have to be ready to face the rejection. So you just gotta want it. So you gotta want it. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep driving and just stick with it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the only really solid advice would be determined, to want it. So that's yeah. I mean, as long as you want it, you're never gonna really stop, and that's probably half of the work.
You can do it.
So that's the last of my questions. So I'm going to pass you on to Lawron, who has a few questions for you as well.
All right, Matt. Well, I was wondering, describe the process or say transition in playing Anakin in the early stages of the Clone Wars versus playing Anakin in the later seasons. Like, what was that transition like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Early on, I feel like we had Dave's direction and, of course, George's direction as well. Anakin was in a position of power at that point, but when Ahsoka came along, he was very hesitant to accept her. He was very he didn't want her around, just to say the least. He didn't want anything to do with her. I think a little bit that shows some of Anakin's immaturity. That character has a lot of immature tendencies. As you can see, anger and immaturity turned into eventually killing his wife, so got the best of him. But I do think that in the Clone Wars we did develop to being a bit more mature, a little more war-hardened, and I think we got to see him understanding his emotional relationships a little more throughout the series. I think he understood how special Ahsoka was to him. On a deeper level, not just like, hey, you're my friend, but just on a deeper level than he certainly was in the beginning. As far as voice traits, I tried to actually, as we progressed, get a little deeper in my tone because I felt like it gave an indication of control and authority about him. I think that he was a bit more of a kid in a way when we first saw him, and then 5.5 seasons later, I felt like he was, kind of like I said, a little bit more hardened, a little bit more authoritative, more comfortable in his authoritative figure, I suppose. So, and I just thought it sounded cooler to be a little bit deeper, more commanding. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's how it kind of changed a little bit, and of course we see how the character changed over the 5 years, and of course going into Revenge of the Sith, obviously some major changes, so I guess we all know that.
Yeah, great, perfect. My next question for you is, when you're working with Dave during a voice session for the Clone Wars, I mean, what was the direction process like? Does he tell you or give you any particular insight on how he wants you to do the line or a scene, or are you pretty free to act as you choose?
You know what, Dave was awesome. Dave was such a great director. Dave cast an amazing, and like I mentioned earlier, they cast an amazing group of actors, way more talented than myself to voice some of these roles. Dave understood that, and Dave let the actors do what they wanted to do with the material. I think we weren't only just actors on the show, we were also all very much fans, and we all very much took the responsibility of making Star Wars very seriously. We all wanted to please the fans. We know how huge the Star Wars fan community is, and how serious they take it, and we did too. And I think because of that, we all really dove into our characters to understand our characters as much as we possibly could. So when we went to the record and we delivered a line a certain way, I got to say, most of the time, I mean, it seemed like it really was very, very fitting for that particular character at that moment in time. And I think Dave completely understood that, and very rarely would he say, I don't want it that way, let's do it more like this. Dave kind of just gave the trust to the actors. But of course there's going to be times where he would say, okay, let's do this louder because the flying dragon is actually 80 feet away, not 15 feet away. So you have to really scream at him, or, things like that. Or he might say, okay, so I know it reads like you're not very mad, but Anakin is actually very upset in this scene. Let's make sure we convey that. And more often than not, we might go through it 2 times, maybe 3 times, and he would just pick the one that he liked, the take that he liked. So
awesome. That's perfect. And my next question for you is, when you're voice acting, do you prefer to be in a booth with others or by yourself?
Well, yeah, I have done both. On films, animated films, you tend to be in the booth by yourself. Tinkerbell, I did a Disney animation Tinkerbell movie. It was called Secret of the Wings, and I did not see one other actor the entire run of the movie. Same with Aquaman. I actually did not see any of the other actors. It's funny because a lot of these animated films, you voice the whole thing, the whole script, and you might go in many times, and then you don't see the other actors that you're performing in the scene with until the premiere or something like that. So you might not know them or ever meet them, period. So it's really weird. But I guess with TV shows, it seems to be a little different. They like to get actors in the same room. With Star Wars, we certainly did. Often, Dave loved to have all the actors in a room, and we literally read it through like just an old radio play. We'd have, if there was 5 characters in the scene, we'd have those 5 actors in, we'd read it line by line, and we'd get to feed off of each other. That was great, because as an actor, you can really work with that. You can really work with what the other actor's giving you emotionally. So that was really, really great to have. It made it feel more authentic. And same with Spider-Man, we often try to get the actors in the same room. A lot of times, just because of scheduling, it is difficult. So there are a lot of solo sessions with Harry Osborn and Venom and those guys. But I love getting in the room with other actors. I think it's always a bit more organic and natural when you can kind of bounce and feed off other people.
That's awesome. Well, I gotta know, which are your all-time favorite Clone Wars episodes, if you can remember? I know there are like over 100, so.
Yeah, there's so many. Well, let's just go from an Anakin standpoint, obviously, because I'm biased. I loved the Mortis arc for Anakin. I think that was, I don't remember if that was season 2 or 3. Do you?
That was season 3. Season 3, yeah.
Season 3, okay. So the Mortis arc I really found interesting for several reasons. Number one, it was kind of the first time Star Wars in general had ever tackled the mythology of the Force. I know that was a story that George really wanted to tell. I just thought it was so cool that all of our stories, of course, came from George, but I know that he was very heavily involved in that because it was his way of explaining the Force. It was a very kind of heady, interesting couple of episodes, or I think it was 3 maybe, and we just found out a lot about how that worked. We found out a lot about Anakin and what was going on inside. We got to see his inner demons, I guess you could say. I got chills at the point where, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a point where he was dreaming, and we actually saw Darth Vader's mask, and we heard Darth Vader breathing apparatus. And to see that in the Clone Wars was one of the first times for me as a fan, was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is Star Wars. We just saw Darth Vader, and we just heard Darth Vader. So that was one of the times where it was just freaking awesome. I can't really explain it beyond that, but and I think just as a voice actor performing for those Mortis arcs, Anakin had a very emotional time in those arcs. Like I mentioned, he was discovering a lot about himself and denying the feelings that he was feeling and the dreams that he was having, and kind of found out at that point that he is the chosen one. Whether he decided to really embrace that, I guess that's up to what's the word? Up to the viewer, whether they thought that or not. But that was the first time he was, I feel like, really truly confronted with that he is the chosen one. So I don't know. I just thought it was cool all the way around, and those really stick out to me. Sorry for that long-winded answer.
No, that's fine. I was just gonna bring up the Mortis arc and all the Clone Wars episodes. I've seen them all. I love them all. But when I go back and I watch the Mortis arc, it's always an arc that stands out to me. It's like, wow, and just it's so mysterious, and there's still questions that aren't quite answered, and we don't quite know. You can kind of fill it in for yourself, and you kind of make it what you want it to be in a way, like what that could represent or what this represents. And it's just always fun to go back and watch it, especially with you and your performance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that's what makes Star Wars so much fun in general, is that we learn so much. We do get to see so much, with the movies and the Clone Wars. And the upcoming Rebels, we get to see so much of like what's actually Star Wars canon, but we also get to just make up as fans what's going on behind scenes, things that we don't see. Where did Admiral Akbar just come from? Where is he going after we see him? What did Anakin just have for breakfast? What did he just see to Rex in the mess hall before we saw this scene? Things like that are so much fun to me as a fan, and I think other fans as well. I think that's one of the reasons why Star Wars is so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to have to turn you over to Ruari now.
All right, thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, Matt. So thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and hopefully we can talk to you again at some point.
Yeah, sure thing.
Maybe when you can talk about Aquaman, of course.
Please.
Right, yeah. Yeah, when my hands are not tied.
Yeah, definitely. So I look forward to that chat then. So talk to you soon then. May the force be with you. Bye, Matt.
All right, may the force be with you. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great interview. What else can we say? Oh my gosh, I finally interviewed Anakin.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea how my geek heart is fluttering.
I think we actually might have an idea.
Yeah, fair enough. Maureen, you won't understand. Graham does because he loves Anakin.
Well, I'm obsessed with Anakin, so
Yeah, there you go.
You're working the hairstyle right now.
yeah, I'm rocking the hairstyle right now. But to be honest, that's for the Nightwing project that I'm working on.
I don't see me with hair out to here for Zatanna, so
You're gonna need to.
I know. Anyway.
Yeah, so that was a great interview we had with Matt Lanter, and we'll be going to interview him again, apparently, because he really enjoyed
Oh, we're
it.
making him come back now. Now that I know that he's going to be playing Aquaman, he has no choice in the matter. I will actually hunt him down to get him back on.
Yeah, well, his agent is going to get a lot of emails from me, I'll say that much. Compared to
The
the
thing is,
one
I do remember seeing him in CSI when the credits came up. I was looking him up earlier, and I just remembered the episode he came from, and I could not stop laughing because it was just, that was a good episode of CSI.
Well, the forensic science around you.
Well, someone, one of our listeners, Darth Kobe, has given us a good pun. Do you want to hear it? You were the chosen ones today to interview the chosen one. Thank you. Well, at least Maureen understood that reference. So, make sure to check out our YouTube channels. The podcast is www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/StepForThisDestroyers. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/Delivery11. Ron's is www.youtube.com/user/StarLegend9595. Check out Graham's fanfictions, www.wattpad.com/user/Graham Kavanagh. Check out Matt Lanter's Facebook page, www.facebook.com/officialmattlanter. And check out Channel 113 where we broadcast live from www.channel113.com. So, geeks out, everyone.
Geeks out.